Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to this week's Monday Motivation. And this week I've got a little something to show you. This week's Monday Motivation is about our motivation through our perceived failures. It should really be called Why We Do Something and Why We Don't. So I am back in London. As you can see, I'm in a different setting, back into my setting, experimenting with the nice two shadows behind me there. But I thought I would share this week almost like the truth behind failures and how they actually help to motivate us, even though sometimes they're kind of like lessons that we don't like. Now, for those of you that are used to seeing me in my characteristic black, let me stand up and show you. Da-da-da-da-da-da. The 40th race and something a little bit special. Oh, hello Alan, good morning. I just wanted to show you that. My medal for running the London Marathon. There you go. So the 40th race, and what a year it was. And you know, running the marathon was such an honour, such a pleasure, and it taught me a lot of stuff about myself. I shall wear the medal, hold it up like that. Hey, good morning, Eunice. Running the actual marathon, which I ended up doing not on the 24th of April, but on the 4th of October, 2 weeks ago, was almost like a pilgrimage. It was like running a pilgrimage. And I wanted to share some of the things that I learned from doing it, because I'm not very good. Like many of my clients, we have this conversation all the time. How are you going to celebrate yourself for doing something? I'm not always great at doing that. I'll have a goal, I'll push towards a goal and do what I have to do, or sometimes don't do enough of what I have to do, which is what I'm going to share with you right now. And then I'll move on to the next thing. And many of us do that. I see so many people strive for something, achieve it, and then very quickly move on to the next thing. And thank you for all those love hearts. It's so good to see. So I wrote down just a few things, and I thought that I would share about why we do things and why we don't. And it is definitely based on my marathon story. Yes, didn't realise there was so... I'll tell you what, Alan, there's chocolate in the middle. Yeah, it's huge, look. Enough to cover my mouth. It's huge. What is that? That's about 4 inches. Something like that. So, yeah, it's huge. Anyway, moving swiftly on. I wanted to share a few things that happened in the journey along the marathon, because sitting at this side of it, I can say I've done it. Now, let's be clear, I had a time in my head and I actually took longer, and there were reasons for it, and I'm not going to make those reasons into excuses. There were reasons that it took me longer, and it occurred to me that what would I do differently next time that I often talk about to you and to clients and in talks and things like that definitely comes into play here. What would I do differently next time? And the best time to do a what would I do differently next time is straight afterwards, whether you're tired, spent, or anything else like that. And where I learned this kind of up level in the assessing what would I do differently next time was actually last year. I spoke at a conference, and one of the people that also spoke at the conference was a man called Jason Fox. Now, for those of you who are like, who on earth is this? If you ever watch Celebrity SAS, or SAS, he's one of the people that are in there, ex-special forces, and in his career did a lot of quite dangerous missions, I would say, including the story that he told when I heard him, when we were speaking at the same conference, where he had to rescue a journalist, and you know, some of his companions were killed in that mission. And he said one of the things that they do in the debrief, they've just rescued a hostage in a dangerous situation. Let's not mess around here. We're talking about war zones here. And the first thing they do when they get straight back to the office, they've lost men, colleagues, people are injured. Some of them, you know, maybe they don't even know where they are. They're surrounded by like 400 people trying to kill them. And the first thing they do when they get back is to do a debrief, like what would we do differently next time? What have we learned? So tip number 1 from this motivation specifically, whether you perceive something's gone really well or not so well, do that anyway. Do that anyway. Quite often when something hasn't gone so well, we kind of want to hide and forget about it and leave it. But when things go well, we're like, yeah, it was brilliant. When we get surprisingly good results. So it's one of the things that really turned up my what will I do differently next time, to literally do it as close to like seconds after the event of the thing as I could. So I wrote some notes down. The good thing, because I don't want this to sound like a big moan, the good thing about the marathon is I finished it. It took me longer, but I finished it and I'm okay with that. I raised awareness. I didn't hit my goal. I wanted to raise £3,000. And again, there were reasons for that. Not because people weren't being generous, not because people don't have money, but because of something that I didn't do. And I'm going to share that as well. And I did it despite a pandemic. And actually, so did Virgin London. You know, no mass races or anything else like that were done. They weren't allowed. They had to come up with a new idea, because if they didn't, all of those people, and let's not mess around here, 45,000 people worldwide, there were people all over the world running for this marathon. They would not have been able to raise money for charities, for their charities. You know, they've spent out all this money on these medals, these t-shirts. There's a magazine that you can get in the post as well. Even at the start when you enter the ballot, if you get through, you get a magazine saying congratulations with tips on how to train. And if you don't, you get one saying commiserations, here's how you can support us and we can support you, kind of thing. So for them, it was important that they went ahead and still did this because they had a lot to lose too. So kudos for all of those runners who did it, walked it, crawled it, whatever we did. And kudos to all of those people that supported us. And when I say supported us, I don't just mean sponsors. I mean those of you that sent messages, those of you that sent videos, those of you that answered on comments that I post on social media, those of you that kind of helped me as I struggled through the last 4 miles. Those last 4 miles probably took me as long as a quarter of the marathon itself. There's a special person, I'll talk more about this maybe privately with the Vibers and people who actually know me a bit better in the flesh. But there's a person who I used to work with who just turns up at the right time. So there I was kind of doing my run, walk, and this car pulled up tooting. Now, here's something to think about. Even though I live in London, for the London Marathon, due to some circumstances that I had to be up in Stoke-on-Trent, I was up in Stoke-on-Trent. I didn't know anybody really in Stoke-on-Trent. So I decided to map out my route. It was a route from one point, like point A to point B, which I had to do point A to point B and then B back to A 20 times. So the return journey was 10 times. That made up 27 miles actually. And on one of the parts, I just finished running. I was walking, I was feeling pretty good actually. And I could hear this of the horn. And as I kind of tried to ignore it, because I thought, no one knows me. Yes, I've got a number on, but it's on my front, so no one's going to know. I should have brought my number to show you as well. And so I'll just kind of ignore it. Can't be me. And then, you know, when a car drives up, slows down, we're on a busy road, and actually mounts the pavement a little bit and toots again. And I look back. My friend, who is from Stoke but lives in London, just happened to be in Stoke, happened to go to the shops and go, hold on a second, is that Jenny Kovacs? And pulls over. I mean, how cool was that? Talk about synchronistic. So honestly, the marathon to me was like a pilgrimage. It was like a spiritual journey almost. So here are some of the things that I would like to talk about, because like I say, this could be a whole big boast post. Whoopee, look at me, I did the marathon. I wasn't the only one. People did it in faster times. People pushed through a lot more than I did. You know, a couple of people ran it having had COVID and all sorts of things like that. So I actually restricted my success. I actually did it in, I think it was 8 hours and 14 minutes, 8 hours 10, 8 hours 14 minutes. And in my mind, I wanted to do it in a 7.5 and less. But here's how I inadvertently restricted my success. And I didn't know that I'd accidentally done this until I did the what will I do differently next time. Just seen one of my friends join, so I'm going to show her my medal, because she hasn't commented. I won't shout you out, but look, I got my medal. Sorry, my lights are reflecting on it. And my special t-shirt. So here's how I restricted my success. And this is one of the biggest ones when it comes to motivation. I doubted that this marathon was going to happen. You know, it was supposed to happen in April and then it was postponed. There was talk of it happening later on in the year, but they didn't know when. Now, why did I restrict my success? And what I'd like you to do as I'm sharing this is think of something that you really want to do, like you properly want to do, not somebody else wants you to do it, or you want someone else to do it for you, but something you really want to do, something you really want to achieve, and have a look at, could you be inadvertently restricting your success? I'm just going to take a sip of lemon water. Could you be accidentally restricting your success? Now, the first place this starts is definitely in the mind. Even if you're an empathic person and you feel into things, once the brain gets in there, your brain has the power to have you think, I can do this or I can't. Somewhere in my brain, there must have been I can do this, I will do this. But where I doubted it was going to happen, there was some communication in the summer and they were like, we're going to see what we can do. There's no crowd activities, because of COVID, etc., etc. We'll come back and let you know in a month's time. At that point, I should have carried on my training. But I just went, you know what? I mean, lockdown was perfect for it, wasn't it? We had a lovely summer. I was able to go outdoors. I live near Greenwich Park. I actually live very close to the marathon route, so I can still run it. But I just went, oh, well, if it might not happen, then I'm just not going to train as much. I'm not going to continue with my 3 days a week minimum training. I'll maybe go out once every week. And, there were a couple of weeks back in the summer where I probably went out maybe once every 2 weeks. That's not training. That's not having the mindset of this is going to happen no matter what. So if you are trying to achieve something in your life, look at where you might be sabotaging your own success or restricting your own success or stopping yourself, because there will always be that point. And sometimes it sounds weird, we don't even see it ourselves. Then I heard talk that, yes, it's going to go ahead on the 4th of October, but it's only going to be for the elite athletes. And so then what did I do? Again, I thought, well, I've got all winter to practice. I'll probably put it on in April, and I made assumptions. So I slowed down my practice. The second thing that I did, which for anyone who is a runner or trains in any kind of physical anything, I chanced on my nutrition, which was not only dangerous, it was quite stupid, I know when I've done something stupid, but I chanced on my nutrition. There were certain things that I should have been kind of doing to help my nutrition, to help my body, and I didn't do them, all because I doubted it was going to happen. So I chanced my nutrition, which, as I said, was dangerous and stupid. And luckily for me, I live to tell the tale. So what would I do differently next time? I would continue on that nutritional journey. Now, there is something to say about this. I did some training with a lady called the Cheesecake Runner, and she's actually a nutritionist, so has some really great information. When I kind of stepped into the running community, and this is no critique to the running community, everyone has to do what they have to do. There's a lot of runners who take supplements and gels and, isotonic drinks and things like that to keep them going. And for some of them, it has some adverse effects on their body. Your body's not really made to run 26 miles while you're trying to eat something. So at some point, let's just say it's going to try and reject it in whichever way it can. I didn't want to add a lot of chemicals to do that, not because I'm in judgment of those people that decide that they do, but because my body, as I get a bit older, becomes more sensitive to the more synthetic things. Food with MSG in it, it gives me what feels like a hangover. That's the only way I can describe it, and knocks me out for at least kind of close to 24 hours, 18 hours at least. So I didn't want to do that. So I looked at alternatives, and at the start I really looked at alternatives for nutrition, things that would feed me, things that would boost me, things that would keep me going, and then I kind of just like put it to one side. So I wouldn't recommend that. So a way in which we do this as business owners, as busy professionals, is we do things like we work all day without taking a lunch break, we start our day without having breakfast, or we go through the whole day and realise at the end of it that we've only drunk 6 cups of tea and no water. Look at how you can keep your body and your brain in good check, you know. Because I doubted it was going to happen, I let that kind of drop off the wagon as well. The other thing I did, I talked about my sponsorship. At the moment, I think I've got about 48% of my sponsorship, but that was my fault. And the reason for that was because I stopped asking for sponsorship. I had 6 extra months, not only to train and get really kind of physically fit, to work on my mindset, to get the nutrition and do all of that good thing. And I also had 6 extra months to keep asking people, can you sponsor me, even if it's £1, even if it's $1. And I stopped. So there were a few months where I stopped asking people. And again, I see so many people do this in business. You'll know that I'm a visibility specialist, which means that I help you stand out professionally. I help you to be seen, and I help you to be heard in a way that feels good and authentic, which is why I can sit at home in a t-shirt and talk about this, with my plant behind me, and not necessarily a studio ready finish. But so many people say, Jenny, I want to affect the lives of millions. I want to put myself out there. It's time. And then they do what I didn't do for the marathon. They restrict their chances of success. They don't put themselves out there, or they chance it. They just say, well, I'm just going to do a video every day and see what happens. That's chancing it. It's like me on the marathon. Well, I'm just going to eat different things and see what happens. We don't know about the results. Whereas because I take so many people, I've taken thousands of people through this journey, through like literally a visibility activation process, and for some a visibility acceleration process. I know what works and what doesn't, so I didn't lean in. The Cheesecake Runner, I bought a couple of different courses and ways to work with her, and I didn't fully lean into them. And I see people doing this all the time, and it's not a telling off. It breaks my heart, because the chances of them achieving the dream that they want to do, in this case for me it was the marathon, which I'm doing again next year by the way, and hopefully a couple in between, and we'll train properly. But I need to lean in to the expertise of somebody who knows, somebody who can mentor me through it and coach me through it and tell me what to do when I hit the hard bits, It's the reason why when people work privately with me, I offer them SOS calls, where literally they have my phone number and they can call me and say, Jenny, this has just happened, what do I do? It's important, it's a very important part of the process. So by me slowing my practice, chancing my nutrition, stopping asking for sponsorship, I didn't really share that I was still running the marathon. So by the time it came to those literally last 4 weeks, and I started talking about the virtual marathon to my friends, 98% of them didn't even know what the virtual marathon was. What did it mean? I was sitting at home, running on a treadmill, walking on the spot. They didn't know what it meant, why it was important, why it even mattered that they got involved. Even just to cheer me on, I didn't share about it. In fact, people were still saying, oh, so when is it? And I'd done it, So this is the same thing. When you're really great at the thing that you do, whether you're an employed professional or whether you're self-employed, running a business or doing both, if you don't share about the thing that you're doing, what it is about the thing and why it's important, people won't get it. It's as simple as that. It's not that they don't trust you or, on its simplest terms, it's not that they don't value you, it's just they don't get it, they don't understand it. And they can't support you, whether it's as a client, whether it's as somebody who hosts you to maybe speak, interviews you, hires you to speak at conferences, hires you, for a corporate gig. If you don't share, they don't know. And what this actually does was, despite the fact that I still went through, I left room for demotivation for myself. And by demotivating myself, I took away my focus. And this is why doing or not doing something can affect your motivation to continue. You know, I've heard so many people say, oh, I ran the London Marathon once, never again. I went into that marathon knowing that I was definitely going to run it again. I definitely would run it again next year, and that I would do something rather than holding up my hand as a badge of honour and saying, but I've never even run a 10k before. I've got a whole year to put that right. I can run a 10k race. I can run some half marathons. I can have some fun. I can run with friends instead of doing it by myself, you know? So that's what I learned. So when we focus on what we think won't happen versus on what we think could happen, then we begin to create self-fulfilling prophecy. And if you think about this, if you're encouraging your loved ones, your nearest, dearest, the people that you love, grandchildren, kids, parents, siblings, you know, friends, would you wish that they, let's just see, well, if you do, you do, and if you don't, oh well. You wouldn't, would you? You'd be like, come on, you can do it. Which so many of you said to me in the run up to it, on the day and afterwards. So use your own thing. Now, for those of you that are watching, whether it's live or on the replay, have you got that thing that you think to yourself, gosh, yeah, this is a thing I want to do? If you do, just give me love hearts or thumbs up or something like that. Have you got that thing, all those things? Because I know that a lot of the people I work with, they don't have just one thing. They're like, I've got this, and this, you know, and I'm going to do it by tomorrow. That's kind of the vibe that they have. So whichever thing sprang to mind, even if it seems random, even if it you're like, oh, that's not the place that I thought I would start, hold that in your mind. If you've done it before or tried to do it before and it hasn't worked, here's how I'd love you to motivate yourself, like right now, right here, today. Think about, what would I do differently next time? And if you haven't done it before, here's a different question for you. What is the first thing that I can do to make this happen? Okay, so either if you've done it before and it hasn't worked out and you're like, oh, I've got to pick myself up and do it again, then what will I do differently next time? And if you're like, I've never done it before, haven't got a clue what to do, what's the first step that you can take to get it done? Or what's the first step that you can take to go towards it? Okay, hopefully helpful, hopefully motivational. If you would like to share something that you're motivated to do, please type it in the comments below, whether you're watching live or on the replay. If you want to keep it sacred, I also honour that as well. It took me a few years of saying, I'll run a marathon one day. I was so inspired by the London Marathon, and it was Alan, who's right on here, who's a life coach himself, as well as an author and does lots of other amazing things. It was him that kind of said, well, you know, you always wanted to do it, why don't you, kind of thing. And I thought, yes, why don't I? And I entered the ballot and I was very lucky to get in. And what an amazing year to get in. Thank you for all your love and support. Thank you for watching this live, and I hope that this motivates a lot of people, so please do share this. Share this on your timeline, share this as a private message, even share it to someone if you're like, oh my gosh, who does she think she is? Share it. I don't mind your motivation for sharing it, but please do share this, because too many of us go to our grave without doing the things that we actually wanted to do. And if by somebody watching, just one of the things in this video that can help them to keep going, to start going and keep going, then my job's done. So thank you so much for watching. For those of you who are watching this live, just to let you know, I'll be back here live at 11:45, having done a couple of coaching calls in between there. So I'll be back here live at 11:45, right on this very page. And there I'll be sharing some visibility nuggets, some specific visibility nuggets to help you to stand out, to raise your profile, to be seen by the people you want to be seen by, heard by the people you want to be heard by. And you might be relieved to know my medal will go back in its lovely little bag. and my t-shirt will go back with the money number. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that I've somehow inspired you to go for the things that you want to do. Go for your dreams. Thank you so much. Special shout out to Eunice and Alan, who have been very interactive on here. And for those of you that like to sit in the background, that's fine too. Thank you so much. Do share this and do spread a ripple effect. Let's see if we can get this 26 miles away from London, hey? Okay, thank you so much, and I'll see you a bit later. Bye for now.